Okay, our next item is 6.5, 9:15 a.m. Consideration of report from Bruce Wilson, Executive Director of Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. And Bruce, do you want to come up and join us?
Come on up. Move this chair.
If you sit on this side, you'll be able to see the screen better. And we've got the microphone right there for you both to share. Good morning.
Morning. Ready?
Go for it.
All right. How would I click? Advance. Okay. Good morning, Chair Peitzka, and members of the board. It's good to see you again and to be back in front of you to give a report on different things, actually. I have with me here Victoria Pulido, who is our supervisor for Lake County for all Workforce Investment Act, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act programs at CareerPoint. She will be touching on a few slides, talking about specifically the program that's available to us here at just down by the lake here. The report I'm going to give today is a deep dive into looking at Lake County's economy, the economic engine that drives that economy, if you will. We're looking at the labor force that's fueling that economy right here at the moment. And then we look at structural things, changes, improvements that we can do by partnering with other agencies and implementing different programs that might move the needle and fueling that economy into the future. Think of it as building our logistical lines to feed our employers, if you will, and our businesses. So quickly, a lot of the report that you have in front of you is looking at what we can do to align our talent strategies. There are a number of things we can do. Victoria's going to be giving some examples here today that are highlighted, where we talk about matching our current workforce. We just had the probation department here, and we have different programs. We really want to partner with programs such as the probation department so that we can move people from the justice system into long-term sustainable employment. And, we do that at our CareerPoint program. For just as an example, addressing barriers to labor force participation for target populations, anything that might be preventing somebody from getting into the labor force. We have work experience programs, on-the-job training programs. We actually pay for tuition, books, tools, supplies, anything that might be beneficial to removing those barriers. We're providing on-ramps and bridges to high-quality career pathways, which means we have to understand and research what those career pathways are, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Aligning certificate and degree programs by working with our community colleges, understanding our industry sectors, back-mapping industry needs for K-16 education, et cetera. So I think what this is really saying, and what I'll be underscoring, is that it's a community effort to address workforce development opportunities, if you will. So first, let's take a look at the Lake County economy. When we in workforce development are trying to understand the economy, these are the kinds of questions we're asking ourselves. Which industries have the highest concentrations of employment? Which industries or which jobs are growing most rapidly? Because that's where the opportunities are. Who are our top employers? What skills are in highest demand? Those are the kinds of questions that we're seeking to answer in this report. We're also trying to understand our labor force opportunities. So who lives and works here, and how diverse is our population? How educated is our population for the different jobs that might require post-secondary education? Has our labor force participation changed or it recovered from COVID? These are all questions that we need to understand if we're going to come up with a talent development strategy. And then I talked about looking at structural changes, the logistical things that we can do to continue building our workforce for the jobs that exist long in the future. And again, these are the types of questions we might ask ourselves. Are there skills and equity gaps? Who is underemployed and sitting on the sidelines? So that's really addressing labor force participation. I have a graph here that's going to show our labor force participation in the last few years. What career-aligned programs are offered at the adult schools, community colleges? Again, these are structural things that if we are braiding and leveraging our resources, partnering with different community groups, we can make a difference in matching our community members with jobs that will help them sustain themselves long in the future. So that's a goal. I think that I would like to underscore that ultimately a community workforce strategy is really partner-based. Everybody needs to be involved. We should be asking, the Board of Supervisors, for instance, could be asking what kinds of programs, what departments do we have that could support what these strategies are, and how might we leverage and braid those resources. For instance, we have our CalWorks programs and our health and human service programs that actually do a lot to move the needle on employment. So partnering and braiding those resources together with programs such as Victoria's reduces the cost to move people and train people for their future careers, and also results in better outcomes. So we want to coordinate and collaborate across organizations and understand the work that cannot be accomplished in silos. That's just more expensive, ultimately for the community, and it leads to far lesser outcomes. We want to follow the lead of employers, meaning we need to understand what employers need in terms of a skill set. We don't want to be wasting resources by training people for jobs that don't actually exist in our community. So we want to have that all aligned, and that starts with having deep conversations, organized conversations, I would say, with our business communities. And then we want to focus on skills. We tend to, in our society, drive our community members towards degree programs. Get your BA, get your AA. And I would say that most of the skills, and you'll see that, or most of the jobs in Lake County are very skill-based. So if we can look at short-term training programs that match the skills with what the employers actually need, then I think we stand a far better chance of achieving clean outcomes, if you will. So I'm going to come back to that because that's critical. That is those are the principles that I think a community needs to work on as we move in the future. So again, economic overview. These are the things we're looking at, as I said, and let's take a look at what Lake County has. These are the top 10 industries in Lake County. We look at, you see that third column, the percent change. Those are indicators of how those industries are growing. So how many more jobs will those industries create? These are projections over the course of the next several years. And you can see that some of them really stand out. Social assistance is growing by 18%. You have your hospitality growing by 12%, contractors growing by 12%. It's important also to look at what industries might be shrinking. Now, we're talking about over 20 industries in Lake County, so I only listed the top 10. So if we went to the 20, you'll see some of those industries are shrinking. Why is that important? Because those folks can be brought into these growing industries by instituting training programs that look at transferable skill sets. So we'll look at the transferability of current skills and see what the gap is. And if we work with our education providers, we can put together a short-term training program that bridges that gap and moves them into these growing industries. Our employers, these employers right here, are struggling to find a workforce. Those are things that a community needs to think about. If our employers and business community are struggling to find that workforce, how are we going to meet that challenge? So that's just a look. Your report goes into more detail, and certainly my organization can pull detailed reports in any area of this. This is a look at the top occupations in demand in Lake County. Again, we're looking at the change. We're looking at annual openings. We're looking at location quotient. Anything above a 1 is a positive location quotient. And then we're looking at median annual earnings. So you can see towards the bottom that they're elementary school teachers, general operations managers. Those are some of your higher wages. You got registered nurses, and again, I'm going to come back to that in a moment. That's doing very well at in excess of $100,000 for median annual earnings. So those are those better paying occupations for sure, and it's good to see that they're on that top 10 list. In addition to just looking at data from various different sources, we're able to look and pull data from thousands of websites, including the County of Lakes website. And we're looking at what kind of skills employers are actually looking for. And these are the skills that are showing themselves the most. And the reason why this is important is it gives you that real immediate, if you will, indication of what skills are most in demand, what occupations are most in demand. So you can see from this list that healthcare industry is really rising to the top, if you will, which is an opportunity for our education providers, organizations such as our own and the Board of Supervisors to ask ourselves, do we have enough capacity in our healthcare training system to meet this need? And I thought I heard some comments about EMTs, for instance, and how are we going to meet those needs in the future? So we taking a look at that, and we're going to move to demographics. This is really refreshing and a silver lining for Lake County, and it stands out in comparison to the rest of the 4 counties that the Workforce Alliance serves. Your population in Lake County is projected to grow, just as the jobs and the job opportunities are projected to grow. And it's just a question of how are we as a community going to sustain that? Because at the end of the day, if people don't see opportunity in a community, they will move away. And let's take a look at not to beat up any other county, but if you compare, for instance, Napa County's job growth to their population growth, there's a real challenge there. The population is going down pretty dramatically while the jobs are going up. Whereas Lake County has seen a net increase of workers over the last year of almost 1,000 people. Napa County has seen a net decrease of workers of almost 1,000 people, just by example of looking at migration patterns. So again, Lake County, of our 4 counties, this is a great position to be in, that you are attracting, from my viewpoint, a future workforce. If you look at by age cohort, you can see how your population's growing where. And this is important from a workforce standpoint, because these are your future workforce and your current workers. And in almost every category, we're seeing projections of higher amounts of people in each one of those areas. And again, if I were to draw a comparison, you'd see the total opposite of this in some of our other counties that are much more difficult to sustain due to cost of living, et cetera. So again, that's good news. Of course, inside of every silver lining is a dark cloud, and one of the challenges that Lake County has is that we need to get our labor force participation back up. So on the far left there, you see our labor force participation, meaning the amount of people over the age of 16 that are looking for work or are currently working is about 56.5%. That dropped down to 50% and has only marginally increased. So those folks that are sitting on the sidelines that have not gotten back into the labor force, how might we work with them as a community to give them opportunities, work experience, whatever it might need to encourage them to get back in the labor force, because there are plenty of jobs that exist. When you look at the types of jobs, this is an opportunity, but it's important to know that it's an oversupply of jobs that require post-secondary credentials, requiring no post-secondary credentials in Lake County. So it's the bar that you see on each, the vertical bar on each horizontal bar is where your population is in terms of education versus the number of jobs, the orange bar, horizontal bar going to the right, that exist for that education level. So you can see there that you would say an oversupply of jobs requiring no post-secondary credentials in Lake County. So
Supervisor Green?
Did I see 30% have high school education or better? Is that what that vertical line means?
yes. Then we have, from a workforce standpoint, it's critically important for organizations that are trying to move people into their career field to continue working with people that we might get them into an entry-level job, but you can see that an entry-level job here in healthcare might be a licensed vocational nurse that we can get somebody into. But if we can keep working with that person or keep working with anybody that might hold a position such as that, the salary difference of moving them into the next rung in their career ladder. So moving from a licensed vocational nurse to a registered nurse in Lake County will result in a $53,000 pay increase. Moving to health service management, a $36,000 pay increase, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how career pathways work, career ladders, and why we take them so seriously at the Workforce Alliance. So ultimately, in the report you have there, we have a 6-phased recommendations, and they follow talent attraction, transferable skills, technical and certificate programs that align to where the employer needs are, information gaps that we might not have information that we need in order to understand the economy. We keep looking at that, and we have to start early, even in the elementary schools, to meet our workforce challenges. I'm not going to go into those details here today, but I want to keep working with the community, working with our community partners, working with you, the Board of Supervisors, to really see where we might implement key programs that's going to move the needle on that structural piece that I talked about earlier. We need to figure out our logistical lines that will feed us far into the future. I'm going to stop there, and Victoria is going to talk about some of the career point programs that we have that match the information I provided here. Why don't we skip over this? I will say that in the report, we talk about building the coalition, and I've said that several times, and these are the examples of partner agencies that should be a part of that coalition. Victoria.
Good morning again. I'm Victoria. So I just wanted to kind of build that gap about how are we making this a possibility for people within Lake County. So again, the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay and Career Point are 4 counties. So we rely on our staffing and resources through all 4 counties of Lake, Mendocino, Napa, and Marin. I do oversee both Lake and Mendocino County at the moment. So within our Career Point system, we have mandated partners, and this is kind of how we bridge those barriers. So a lot of our partners are EDD, Department of Rehabilitation, California Human Development, Adult Education, Public Assistance, and also Welfare to Work. So a lot of the times, as you saw, sometimes our population is lacking a high school diploma. Everybody who comes to us, we try to promote, let's get education, let's get that high school diploma so you can reach a higher wage or a better sustainable job. So we rely on all of our partner agencies to co-enroll, to share all of our resources, to make sure that our community has the best resources possible to maintain that sustainable wage for their family. So we work with all of these agencies, and they're all actually within our Career Point location at 55 First Street. Everybody is welcome to their services as long as they maintain that eligibility for like Department of Rehab, Human Development. So there's a lot of different things that the community is eligible to that they might not be aware of. Oh, okay. So I'll go ahead and describe some of our individualized career services. So everybody who is eligible to our services is 16 or older. They basically need their right to work documents. So that's your I-9. Males do have to have selective service, but we provide everybody who comes to us with individualized career services. And some of those examples are being able to provide one-on-one counseling, kind of understanding that roadmap with them. So as Bruce described, we really work on pathways to employment. So my staff have a wide variety of experience of different job histories, and they bring a lot to the table that can share with our job seekers about how to get into a certain path. My background is public safety and law enforcement, so that, I'm able to help those individuals who come through our door seeking that. I have an individual who has an education and training as a teacher, so we're able to bring those to the community and understand that pathway. We do provide everybody with one-on-one job search, understanding what they're looking for and how can we meet that goal. We try to not make everybody that cookie cutter and put them in the job that they're not going to be happy with, but we really want them to be knowing that the job they're going to work in is what they're going to be excited about, going to be able to provide to their family, and just know that there's a career path for them. We do help with workshops, resume building, different types of things just for basic foundation of going to work. We also can provide supportive services. So we do provide training assistance. It was noted for public safety, there might be a lack of individuals in that field. If there is, for any reason, somebody feels that they don't have, the monetary ability to do that, please reach out to Career Point. There are programs such as paramedic and fire and law enforcement that we are eligible to pay for. So we really try to make sure that money is not a barrier to somebody to getting a job. There are, of course, eligibility to it, but we want to make sure that that is attainable by people. And most of Lake County do reach our criteria to be able to pay for training. So those are, some points that can be really helpful just within anything. We really focus on the different certificates and just getting people in work as soon as possible. Our goal is within 6 months, people can have a good sustainable wage, and then we can work with them even a year later on how can we promote to a different job. We do provide retention services for a year after gaining employment to make sure that things are working smoothly. Sorry for the writing's a little bit off. But we do provide some assistance. We do help businesses in our area and other training providers to get people through training. So we help with like a earn and learn program. We partner with apprenticeships, vocational training, and certifications. So currently we are partnering with Lake County Office of Ed. That's a huge one. We are able to pay for a lot of the medical assistants and CNAs. So that is a huge need for our community in Lake County, and that's just one way how Career Point's kind of making that a possibility for everybody. We're getting people through, and we're helping them with jobs after their training. Another need that we assist with in Lake County is truck drivers, whether that be Class A or Class B. We sponsor a lot of those programs as a high demand. So we've also gone pretty digital. Since December, we had a mobile app go live that really brings a little bit more tech to our customers. That way they can reach us virtually. So they can learn about our services, register for workshops. We give everybody free access to the LinkedIn Learning site. They can take career personality assessments, view our upcoming events. We do have a hiring event coming up in August for Adventist Health. And also they can get direct access to CalJobs. We do have a job board on there of all of the job openings within Lake County as our business services find out what those jobs are. And then we also discussed all of the different training providers that we might be working with, but it's not the end of training providers. All of those, there's a few thousand on CalJobs that are available to people. So we kind of just go from there, and our list of those providers keep adding. And they're able to book appointments directly with staff through the app as well. So we do have some special grants that the Workforce Alliance is always searching for and promoting for us. So this one coming up is specifically helping Lake County at the moment. So this grant allows us to hire individuals. We're trying to get the wage higher than 19, but right now it's 19 an hour, and it's cleaning up the storm damage from January storms. So we are going to be working with the County of Lake, the City of Clear Lake, and City of Lakeport. Those are different agencies that we are currently working with, and we'll be partnering to make sure that everything is cleaned up. They will be removing debris, trash, different bushes, trees, etc. We are doing the same in our other 3 counties as well. And some other special grants that I didn't note that will be coming up that we'll be working with probation on, hopefully, is we have a prison to employment grant coming, where it is special just for those individuals who have any type of criminal justice background that might need some additional assistance. That grant is specifically for those individuals. We also have a few training grants where we can right now provide additional support for people looking for healthcare, truck driving, and construction jobs. And so we're constantly looking for grants that help our industries grow and bring people to the workforce. So there's different things that are going to evolve and come throughout the years. And then we are, like I said, at 55 First Street. We're there Monday through Friday, but I also have staff on the Clear Lake campus every Tuesday. So we partner a lot with them to make ourselves accessible to that side of the lake and the citizens there. So if there's any questions, you can always reach out to us at any time.
Where are these hours posted for the public?
So they are on, if you Google Career Point Lake, they are there. We do close from 12 to 1, but we are open every day that is not a federal holiday.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So when it comes to addressing the workforce challenge, you can see that the Workforce Alliance and the Career Point system is, I was going to say, when it comes to working towards the workforce challenge, you can see that the Workforce Alliance and Career Point Lake are totally engaged in trying to meet those needs and mitigate those challenges. I would encourage the Board of Supervisors, if you're doing newsletters, getting information out about different programs, that you will feed you with the information that you might need to let the community know about, for instance, the hours, but we are always looking for more people to help.
Did you have your pen up? Supervisor Spatier?
Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of notes from some of the slides that were up there. You mentioned jobs creation, keeping up with population growth. I know here in Lake County, I'm just going to split it at 50. I don't have the exact numbers, but a lot of us commute to work outside of the county. So for every 2 new people, they may only take up 1 job in the area. So I'm trying to figure out how do we, does that mean we get people coming in from out of county to work here to fill up those jobs that are going to be available? Or are we going to remain vacant in those job positions and hope that eventually we can fill them? That's just something that I think we need to look at and not assume that it's automatically going to fill in, that there might be some extra work needed. And I remember that from the Dr. Eiler report for the number of people that travel out of county every single day to go to work. We talked about there was a comment about 30% high school diploma. I don't think that's correct. That one, I think we're actually higher than the average of state of California. I don't know what the number is. I think it's in the high 80s or low 90s. But 30% might just be AA plus bachelor's, because I know even in the overall county, we're not at 20% for a bachelor's degree. I know City of Clear Lake's like 8%. The overall county was 16 last I checked on our census. So just wanted to clarify that more than 30% of our community has a high school diploma. That was not a good number. So I wanted to make sure and correct that. Just to speak on the EMT paramedic, just to see how we can possibly work. I know that I had a conversation with community colleges, some local school districts. We are attempting, nothing has been finalized, to try and bring those EMT courses to the high school campuses as we have a captive audience. And if we can get those senior students, as they turn 18, to be done with their EMT courses, they can go ahead and pass the state test, and then they can go ahead and start working, and it's actually decent pay. I don't know what it starts at. I think it's either between $40,000 and $50,000, but it's decent pay to start as an EMT, and it opens up so many more doors to any healthcare, as you mentioned as well, climbing up the rungs of the ladder. So I wanted to kind of share that that's some of the work that we're doing to try and expand the opportunities to fill in those needs. Again, I appreciate the presentation, and I hope that my comments here don't make things awkward, but I didn't get anything of what has been done. I see a lot of what wants to be done. I know that you guys kind of left Napa. Napa was kind of like the lead agency. There was some changes that needed to be done in Workforce Alliance, but I didn't receive any numbers. How many people are you serving? How many people have gotten jobs? How many people have you helped pay for school? I feel like those numbers matter to me a whole lot more than just the ideas or the prospect of things. And so I'm leaving here needing a whole lot more information than what I walked into, because I love the idea of things, but I want to know what is working for us that you've been doing. And I'll also leave it with this. There needs to be a tighter relationship, at least with the community colleges. I know I used to work on the community college campus, and I'm not going to put my personal thing in there, but I know that it was a struggle to communicate and work together and collaborate. We got to figure out how to make that happen. I know I just spoke with one of the deans who has not met with you and has been there for more than 6 months. And so we need to build those relationships, because that is the central place that people are going to go. As far as I'm concerned, college is anything past high school. If you want to go to be a police officer, you got to go to police academy. I consider that same thing as going to school and getting an education in the field that you want to get trained into. So whether that turns into a bachelor's, a certificate, or just a license to do a job, it's post-high school education, and we just need to focus on making sure people, whatever their goals are, have access to those things. And that's our central place in our community. We don't have the universities accessible here. They can be through online, but we have to have a tighter relationship with our community colleges. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. You sure can. You're here.
Great. Well, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that's really good feedback and gives us focus. I will say that at the Workforce Development Board level, we do have a seat at the board for community college. So we are, I think that if there's somebody over there at the college that we haven't spoken to, I'd like to get their name and reach out to them. And I think you're right. We need to align our programs, as I stated here. As far as, I can't remember everything you said. There was a lot there, so I'm gonna give it my best shot.
I know I spoke about the lack of stats.
Yeah. maybe Victoria might be able to offer head, talk about some of the things that we've been doing. We do publish a report card that we give to our governing board on their quarterly meetings. So we are always looking at stats. We're looking at where people are entering our program from, how many people are walking through the doors, how many people are accessing Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act programs. We would like to, because CareerPoint is a partnership, get better at providing stats as to, of the people that walk through our doors, how many are accessing CalWorks programs versus EDD programs. So if we had 1,000 people walk through our doors, we are able to give very specific information about who entered the WIOA program, and I will follow up with this meeting with getting that information to you by the end of the week for sure, because we do track that information, just didn't make it a part of this presentation today. Victoria just put a marker. If you know them offhand, though, I think it'd be good to share. As far as migration, inter-county migrate, that's pretty typical because economies are regional, but that's also the challenge for Lake County. So how might you have a workforce, which is my point, how might you look to support the economy in order to keep that workforce here? What kind of opportunities might you have for your residents that is going to keep them from commuting or whatnot? And I will say it's even getting more challenging on that front. Somebody from Lake County can work for an employer in San Diego because of how much our employers across the nation have embraced remote work. So that is a challenge that we need to keep talking about with our community college, and keep talking about with you as we move forward. So what I wanted to express and underscore is that this is a conversation that we need to all be at the table for in order to move the needle. Our economic development partners have a lot of a big voice in that particular subject as well. What part did I miss?
I don't know, I said a lot.
Okay, but definitely I will lean on you, Supervisor, to make that connection with any member of the college that we have not spoken to. We have a wealth of information, and our goal is to align the talent development opportunities to the jobs that actually exist. And I think we have a lot to offer there to the college.
I just have a couple of follow-ups. Do you have 2 seats for community college or just 1? Because we have 2 separate ones, and I want to make sure that both are working for the community as best as they can with you, rather than one being amplified and the other one being left behind. Just kind of curious.
We have at our advisory, each county has an advisory committee, if you will, because we want to keep our hand on the pulse of what's important in Lake County, and there are no limits to that. If there's a dean over there that can give their time to participate with other community partners on this subject, we want to hear from that dean. That's the table by which we can have that conversation. On the full Workforce Development Board, we have 20 seats, and one of those 20, by law, has to be a community college, representing the community college voice from a regional level. So I think that answers your question.
And then my last comment is something that I hope still exists and something that we can, excuse the term, but exploit to the best of our advantage. You had a program where you paid 50% of the salaries for kind of like an internship or a training program. I still feel like that is probably one of the greatest programs that we can try and bolster up and make available for a wide variety of things within the context of the program. By working with our community colleges, people that are slowly getting to their degree, if we can start getting them in the workforce and helping our employers by paying that 50% of the salaries, I just, sounds like it still exists, and I'd love to see what the numbers are as far as how that's been utilized and how we could increase those numbers to give a benefit to our employers and give those people who are looking to be employed a step up in getting employed.
I can speak to some of those topics. Like Bruce said, we do have a dashboard that comes out every quarter. So the main part of the dashboard really covers WIOA services. So in the last year for fiscal year, we did finish the year with an OJT, which is where we paid actually 90% of a wage due to a waiver that we received to be able to pay for small businesses. We were able to reimburse at a 90% rate. If they are over 50 employees, that's where it's the 50%. So those are opportunities that are still available. We finished the year with 9 WEXs, so those are the same type of thing, but for our youth program, which is age all of these kids were 18 to 24. So they were all placed in different businesses, learning kind of the trade, and they were all actually hired on after with that company. Each one received a full-time employment. So that's just kind of what WIOA was able to do. Now, the other partners within CareerPoint do have the same type of program, and so that's where Bruce is trying to say we want those statistics as well. How much are we able to provide back? But I can only speak to the WIOA side. We did have 17 individuals in training, so a lot of those, again, were CNAs, medical assistants, truck drivers. We do have dental assistants, phlebotomists, a lot of different trades that we're able to assist with. So with when it comes to paying for on-the-job training or training dollars, it's one bucket for us. So in Lake County, we are heavily on a training. That's what people come to us for, is to go to training. So we would love to see how we can make more businesses part of our services and try to see where we can work that out, whether it's putting through training and assisting with a job after.
Thank you.
One last thing I didn't touch on is the population and education level. So I'm going to follow up on that. Our information comes from federal data sources. So as people get their degrees and hold their degrees, and that gets fed into a system which we're able to draw from. But I want to make sure that we're talking about the same denominator. If this it just says the population at that educational level, and make sure that we're not misreading that. I'll follow up.
So a while back, Vice Chair Simon and I saw the presentation with Marin County and the community college with the firefighter program. And it is something that we both want to see here with maybe a more a focus on fuels management. That is something that we're struggling with that capacity here. And so I know we were just showing your top 10 industries, but definitely climate-related professions and that industry is needed here. And so we'd both like to see some more programs developed in that area.
Right, and one thing immediately that we can do is in that Marin County program, what we did was participate in the funding of the curriculum for developing firefighters. So we can make that available immediately with regard to what Marin County did, and it's intended to be replicable, if you will. Whether or not, I think what we could also do is set up some conversations between Marin County stakeholders and Lake County stakeholders on how you might replicate that in Lake County if stakeholders decided to go in that direction.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this, appreciate the slide deck. I want to point out to those watching, posted with the agenda was this hard copy report. I think the slide deck kind of repurposes some of that. So this report by Lightcast was done for Workforce Alliance. So if you haven't had a chance, it is online. And if this slide deck was sobering, this report just kind of adds fuel to that fire for me. Whether it's 30% high school graduate or 50%, it's just that the disparity in education levels here in this county is striking. The amount of poverty is striking. We're becoming a bedroom community for workers in Sonoma and Mendocino and Napa County. We can't house our own workers to the extent they do live here and they have kids. 20% of their income goes to child care, assuming they can find it. This is a bad news bearer of a report, and it's no offense to anybody. You're highlighting the reality of what it is. So just to backtrack a little bit for myself, last time I stumbled into CareerPoint several job gaps ago, I'm an old guy. I was looking for the unemployment department. So I think part of this may be a branding issue for me. You know, how many people know CareerPoint is the old unemployment department? How many people know you're state funded, not just to provide boots on the ground at our office here in Lakeport, but you do dovetail with CalJobs and all these other job training programs you mentioned. I don't know, just because I didn't know for a fact, again, several years ago when I was job gapping, just how central your office is to the state's efforts to get people employed here. So number one, just thank you for being here, but there may be people like myself who are still kind of playing catch up to the idea that we even have career points here in Lake County and what your exact role is. So appreciate all the good information in this report. Certainly if there's anything we can do to support your mission, and if there's we can help you connect some of the dots that you've mentioned that you don't have fully realized, but if I remember right, you probably aren't fully staffed either. You're probably struggling to fill your own positions. You're wearing 2 counties, right? So, and I just don't know what to do with this other than wish you well, but it kind of highlights what we've seen in other reports, that Lake County is the poster child for income disparity, and we can talk about equity all we want. But if we can't get people out of high school, if we can't get people basic job training, if we can't get people housing, the biggest job growth highlighted in the slide deck and in this report is minimum wage jobs. You know, what good is it to have an 18% growth pattern for a job that doesn't turn $30K a year? Who can live on that? So thank you for highlighting what COVID has brought us, what remote work has brought us, what economic pressure from our neighbors in the North Bay. It's still kind of odd to think of Lake County as a North Bay county, but the market dynamics, the employment dynamics, the fact that we're getting good news at the national level, that we're down to 3.6% employment, but we're, double that here? It's all very concerning, and I just don't know how to process it. So if I can leave it at this, I hope we can take a meeting or two afterwards just so I can catch up with the hard work you're doing. This is a great report, but I need to know more. Thank you.
Yeah, just a reminder that Vice Chair Simon and I sit on the Workforce Alliance Board. Did you have a response, Supervisor Swatier, or?
I'll
Okay,
let Supervisor Crandall go first.
And so I don't know how far off this might be, but you did mention training. One of the things that's often mentioned, I know with the fire chief, one of the things that he comes to a lot of my town halls. We have a lot of issues, as you know, with retention and recruiting. But one of the things that are commonly stated is that, and this is the Chief Ciancio's words, we're like the minor leagues of the firefighting and EMT industry, or whatever you want to call it, profession. And so they'll come here for a couple years, get the training, and go to a different area that can pay more. A lot of counties that are also in collaboration with Lake County and this JPA, whether it be Marin, Sonoma, or Napa. I'm pretty sure I know and heard the same thing in regards to the situation with the sheriff's department, with the deputies. And what you have to really think about is in each area, so like whether it be fire, EMT, deputies, et cetera, they do learn a lot more here and get a lot of experience. The deputies have to become correction facility officers, dispatch. They also do a lot more when it comes to, when they actual patrol. So when they do, and if they do decide to leave, they have all of that knowledge. Same with the fire and EMTs. What was explained to me is that when someone leaves here, they have all of this different experience with firefighting and fuels and all of these other things that they don't get when they go to Napa or to, Sonoma or even the Bay Area. So they go in there just kind of becoming a one-trick pony, whereas here you get all the tools, you kind of paid a little bit for the time being, but once you move on, you're making triple or double, and you're also more of an asset if you think about it, because you have all of that on your tool belt. And I'll have to say the same thing with the county. You have to do a lot more different positions. I know that some of our directors have to do their deputy positions because they can't recruit. Same thing with others. So we're like a training ground, and I think maybe we need to embrace that and just say, like the chief said, we're like the minor leagues. And so how do we implement that as to saying, hey, Lake County's a training ground, we understand it, so how can we funnel them through so we always have our positions always kind of somewhat filled or something like that. I don't know, I'm just throwing an idea out there. So, because I've heard it's not my idea, the chief brought it up, so I liked it and I just figured I'd say it, so, yeah.
Well, I think, just to respond to both comments, Supervisor Green, I think you're right. This was intended to be a very data-based look at what's actually happening. If I could give any sense of hope, is that we did lay out several different strategies that can be added onto, that at least the Workforce Alliance is focused on things that we can do in that six-phase strategy piece. So I would love to have the opportunity to sit down with you and talk in more detail, because they're one or two sentence things that are hard to grasp, but those are the things that we think we can move the needle on, and I think that there is a great deal of hope. A lot of, for instance, entry-level jobs. But when you think about entry-level jobs being a part of a career pathway, and you can move up and through that career pathway, then you can reach sustainable opportunities in our community. Lake County also has a much lesser cost of living index, and it's a certain quality of life that some of the other counties in California don't offer, and there's some opportunities in promoting what Lake County is, and there's a lot of people that want to be here for that. There's a lot of people that, just looking at data, that are moving to Lake County. The challenge is how you keep them, as Supervisor Crandall just hit on. So how do we keep them in Lake County filling these jobs? And that's the reason why there are so many solutions in this report, is that our strategies in this report is because there's no magic pill, if you will. We have to work on all of these things, and we're one organization. So that's why I stress, how do we do an audit of employment and training resources in this community, and what opportunities might we have to braid those resources to start addressing some of the challenges that we're seeing in the fire service industry and across many different industries. But entry-level jobs is an asset. From the standpoint, you got to stick with them and move them through their career pathway.
Supervisor Spatier?
Yeah, I feel the need to correct Supervisor Green. He threw out some numbers that are, again, you said 30 or 50% for high school graduation rate. And we have to prop up and highlight what we do right and work to fix the challenges in front of us, not to desecrate our county, and words from this dais matter. On the average for the state of California, 84.2% high school graduates for 25 years and up. In this county of Lake, it is 86.6%. We're doing better than the average of California. In May of 2023, unemployment in California was 4.5, in Lake County it was 5.5, not double. Please watch those numbers. It's important not to let people think that we're in a specific position that we're not. We need to know the facts, and we need to know and recognize the challenges and step up to it, but not throw our county on the ground. So, needed to fix that. And when's the next time we see you guys? I'd love to talk about how we follow up with you. I know we have the committee, and I don't want to get involved in that level of work, but are we doing this annually? It's been a while since we've seen you, Bruce. Just kind of wanted to check in when we can get another report and see the progress we're making, and maybe see what pivots we need to look at or what we would like to suggest. Just kind of curious about that.
Right. Well, certainly I'll meet with you, anybody here on one-on-one at any point. It's just a matter of scheduling a time to meet and having that conversation. So I'm always available on that front. As far as presenting to the Board of Supervisors, anytime I would get a request, I would be happy to schedule that at any point, whether it be quarterly or annually. I think we've been striving for annual presentations to the Board of Supervisors, but if there's something specific that we can speak to and you would like me to speak to you as a board, I'm happy to do that. Certainly, as well, all of our meetings are open to the public, and you can participate in that way as well. So it's a very inclusive process to get your viewpoints heard and addressed and focused on. So I would just say that.
I wanted to touch on that too. So I spend probably half my time really trying to educate the communities of Lake and Mendocino about Career Point, because there have been some changes throughout the last couple of years. So I really want to make sure that if there's anybody in the community interested in learning about Career Point and all of our partnerships, because I don't focus on just WIOA. I want the community to know that there's so many other organizations a part of our umbrella, not just WIOA, because I think every year we go through so much money unclaimed and resources not tapped into. And that's when we're going to be successful, is when, again, people are working together. So I am always available to come to any organization, to any meeting, as well as like Bruce, to give any type of speech on what we do, and also just the updates that are coming, because we do have new grants that I briefly touched on that constantly come through, our hands, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing those funds. We don't like to give money back. So we want to make sure that people are knowledgeable about what we can do, because we're really available to everybody.
Victoria, would you like to do a presentation that's a deeper dive into what WellPoint offers locally?
Yeah, I certainly can.
So maybe we could offset our annual meeting with Bruce and do every 6 months in the winter, maybe January, have a follow-up with you, and we can
definitely
talk more about that. Okay.
That sounds good.
That sounds
I do have, kind of to touch on at least the community college. I work very closely with the Clear Lake campus as well as Mendocino College. When it comes to the Lakeport campus, we're usually more on the Mendocino side, working with that staff. But I have a very close relationship with both colleges, if that helps.
Yeah, it would be great to invite them to that presentation, and maybe some of our other educators countywide.
Perfect.
At some level of success, if you're part of any other groups, whether it be a Rotary or anything where people are gathering, these are the folks that could really help amplify the message that we're trying to get out. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, Supervisor Green?
Just one last thing. I want to acknowledge the comments of my colleague. That slide was still very disturbing. I think one possible, as we do some follow-up, if 30% of the workforce present in Lake County has a high school education, but we have a much higher graduation rate overall, it seems more than likely that a good portion of our high school educated population is leaving Lake County and thus not entering the workforce, or they're present and with a higher level of education and they're not present in the workforce. So there may be, both stats may be accurate. I am interested in some follow-up on that. Don't mean to denigrate anything, but one, our workforce reentry, as noted, is well below where we need to be for COVID, and that workforce we do have present in the workplace is not got a lot of education past high school. So, thank you.
Also, again, I'm going to follow up on that, but it's not, the way I'm reading this, just to be clear, is not of the entire population, how many it's how many have just a high school diploma, for instance, or just an AA degree, or have just finished. It's not, anybody with a BA obviously has a high school diploma as well, so that becomes cumulative.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for the public. Do we have any public comment in the room? Come on up.
My name is Joan Moss. I'm glad to meet you. I'm a part-time student at Mendocino College. I want to meet with you and consult with you and volunteer for your position. I want to know if you are on probation, if you can still qualify for a college grant. I know that a lot of people have a lot of desires and a lot of ambition, and they have a drug problem or a alcohol problem. And does that preclude them from going to school or getting money? There's a lot of questions I have. I am on Wildcat Road. I see a lot of people. I drink a lot of coffee. But I do have a bachelor's degree, and I used to teach beginning guitar. I loved it. But now, in order to qualify to apply for a job for beginning guitar, I need to have all my transcripts from all my schools and make a packet. And I don't have the skills. I have computer skills, I can write a story, but I have skills I need to contact all the schools I've ever been to and get a packet that's this thick for a job that might be 1 or 2 hours a week. Even though I have a Bachelor of Education, I'm a published writer, but I'm entering the workforce after not being able to because of the pandemic. Thank you, and thank you for not telling me I'm off the subject. Bye.
Thank you, Joan. Do you want to respond?
I'll go first. I want to stress and underscore that the programs that Victoria mentioned are specifically for people that have barriers to employment. In order to qualify for our program, you usually have to meet income eligibility and other eligibility requirements. So, and we even are we're hopeful that we're going to get a new, what we call a prison to employment grant from the state of California, where we'll specifically be able to help and partner with probation departments to move people from reentry into sustainable careers. As far as who we send into training, training is the most expensive service we offer. It's not cheap to provide these programs. And what we need to do is make sure that somebody's going to sit through a 6-month training, for instance. If somebody has the skill sets and the interest and the aptitude to go through an HVAC training, that's a well-paying job. We want them to do that. We just need to make sure that they're going to follow it through.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Anyone in the Zoom room?
No
Oh,
hands.
you want to come on up? We've got some people in the chambers.
Nicabet Casito, hello. Just adding on to the subject of eligibilities, I was just curious about who you knew were certain groups that may have fallen through the cracks, or if you were able to serve all populations, but if you noticed any groups that you need to particularly reach out to make use of these programs.
So when mainly our lake population has been really good to come to Career Point directly. In the last year, my staff haven't done so much outreach. They have so many people coming to all of the other services within our community. And so we've kind of been able to help as people are coming through the door. They're coming through quite quickly. But we serve, anybody who is considered low income, whether they are on services or not. Those are kind of the main priority services. We serve anybody. So we have different levels of service. anybody in the community is eligible for services. So whether that's just job search, resume writing, workshops, that's open to the public, no matter what age, income level, things like that. When it comes to more having to spend $1, whether that's training, we have to focus on more of a priority of service. And so those are set by the governor and what we're able to do. And so with that population, those are anybody who is, again, considered low income, anybody who is a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, Native American. But then we do have special grants for people with more barriers. And also we serve dislocated workers. That's kind of a different grant. So anybody who's been laid off, business closure, things like that. But we are open to the public no matter what you're looking for. It's just when we need a little bit more individualized, we take that extra look at eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did we have
Just say, as far as target groups go, we do specifically look at untapped labor pools, so people with disabilities, veterans, our younger populations, those are the folks that we are trying to reach. And those are the folks we're trying to work with businesses and employers to give a chance to if they're going to solve their workforce challenges.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Michael Wagner. I just wanted to come up and highlight a couple of different things. It looks like, you know, as Mr. Green pointed out, the report itself is rough, right? And we can see you guys have a number of different solutions or ways that you're looking at increasing or bettering the development of the county itself or the jobs that are in the county. Instead of looking at all the aspects that maybe could be changed or different, I think looking at completely new ideas might be beneficial. When we look at basically healthcare at our highest best mover at 18%, that's also hugely based on just the numbers of baby boomers, right? So the nursing and staff that's going to take care of that older population will eventually run out, right? So looking far enough ahead that we don't do something just now that doesn't address the bigger issues, which would be perhaps looking at some of the things like Bruno had brought up for building small farms, developing the area and the space that we have. The one thing that we do have probably more than any other county is developable agricultural areas, and not just doing the key essential or the typical development, but looking at the things, whether it's use of technology or education, how do we develop those different agricultural industries in a way that's more diverse, would also allow us a longer point or a further point to get to while developing the entirety of the area, including having staff or workers that are in the area. So just a suggestion. Lastly, how do the fire department's districts work directly with you guys? Is there somebody who does that specifically? Should there be somebody that is there overseeing, just to make sure that these things do happen and there is follow through, not from lack of caring, but probably lack of just resources, people, fingers, phone calls. So, well, for dialing, people used to dial, now you tell your phone who to call, right? So I don't know if it's an appropriate time to answer those questions, but I did want to present them. Thank you.
Offer that I'm happy to meet with anybody and look at different innovative strategies that will address workforce challenges. So maybe we can share information after the presentation. As far as this is not an exhaustive list. We're not just focused on this. We're looking at all things that will move the needle on things. We understand that this is going to be a multifaceted approach, and different partners and different organizations have different things to bring to the table. It's just the challenge for us is braiding those resources And there are some low-hanging fruit to make sure that simple organizations are talking to begin with. And that's, again, what we stressed in the report. I think the report does specifically talk about agricultural support opportunities and the concentrations of employment. It's one of the biggest opportunities, as you mentioned, for Lake County. So taking a deeper dive at those agricultural support areas is, I agree with you, is something that we need to look at to see if there's more we can do. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about the Workforce Alliance. I'm talking about all of us, because everybody has some resource to put on the table, and it's not worth moving on anything if you're depending on just one organization to do it, because we don't have enough resource to do it just by ourselves. So it's where can we find agreement on these things that we're going to choose to move forward on together.
Just a quick response to that. I think if I remember correct on the report, the agricultural support or the agricultural increase anticipated is like 4%, which was much lower than the rest, but that's always flexible, right? But also just to speak on the nursing and healthcare stuff, I know that we just got a report from AAA, the Area Agency for Aging, that we anticipate a 20% increase in seniors over the next 30 years. Well, if we're doing a 30-year career pathway, I think that's definitely looking in the long term. We can't go too far out. Technology 30 years ago was not exactly what we have in our hands today. But I would suspect that healthcare will remain a strong contender for being in the top 10 pretty consistently in the next couple of decades.
Are you trying to come up here? No? Okay. All right. Is there anyone else in the chambers? And we have someone in Zoom?
Yes, we have Crystal Marketan.
Okay. Director Marketan?
Crystal Marketan, Director for the Department of Social Services. I'd like to thank the Workforce Alliance for the report. I did read it yesterday, and I just want to call attention to the fact that it really does underscore the report, social services during budget hearing, that we are competing with.
Oh, we lost your microphone for a minute there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. That we are a training ground, and this applies to all departments. And I just hope that the board, through that lens, when reading this report, I feel like we need to act to stop what's really essentially we're losing trained staff, and over time, you know, that level of experience that you would acquire when people stay with an organization, it won't be there. And I mean, it's already at some level, you know, getting to that point. But I just found that this report really underscored what my.
Yeah, we lost a little bit of what you said, but I think we got the gist of it. And thank you for your comments. Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Is there anything further? If not, thank you for your presentation today.